Okay, yeah. Oh. What? Where they kick them? Why you kick them back? Where they- This is what they play the drag. Next part in the election. They go maximize this thing, this moment.
All right, we can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu alongside King Charles III inspecting the Guard of Honor. Let's remind you that this is a state visit by the Nigeria's president to the United Kingdom. And we can see that the ceremony unfolds with meticulous precision, steeped in centuries of British military tradition. Then as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu arrives at the ceremonial ground, typically within the royal precinct, is formally received under the authority of King Charles III. We can also see on our television screen military band setting the tone, striking up as the president steps onto the parade ground. The atmosphere is deliberate and dignified, every moment timed to the second. The Guard of Honor, as we can see on our screen, also drawn from one of the United Kingdom's elite regiments, stands in perfect formation, rows of immaculately dressed soldiers in ceremonial uniforms, their posture quite rigid, their gaze fixed. You know, at the command of the officer in charge, weapons are presented in a synchronized motion, a salute marking the arrival of the visiting head of state. And I guess that was 21 gun salute, which was done when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, alongside his wife and Nigeria's dignitaries, arrived at the United Kingdom, you know, for the state visit, the strategic meeting that they'll be having with who is who of the United Kingdom.
I think a lot of persons have been looking forward to what will be really the outcome of the president's visit on major sectors across the nation. We know that Nigeria and the United Kingdom really share long historical ties. Now that the country is now coming not just as one that was colonized, but now coming as also a partner with strength.
Absolutely, with strength.
With strength, right? Well, this period is viewed through a critical lens. It also lays foundations for future connections in terms of language, legal systems, how both nations can come together to build a strong bond, especially at this time of the world where nations are now coming together, standing together to send a message, especially during the time of conflict and war across major regions across the world. This is quite significant. The president is still being welcomed at the Windsor Castle. We see him with King Charles III and Queen Camilla. The guards still showing their strength to the president of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, and his wife.
And as you can see, this is actually coming at a defining moment where the national anthems were played. First, Nigeria's anthem was played, followed by that of the United Kingdom. Quite a symbolic exchange of respect. Two nations acknowledged on equal footing. So that's not to say that United Nations actually positioned itself above Nigeria. No, this time around, the nations are being seen as partners. not just in anything, but in progress and economic strength. Following this, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we saw that he did the inspection of the guard, which before he went to the position where we now see him, alongside King Charles III and Queen Camilla, as well as Chief Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady of Nigeria. We saw them earlier walking slowly along the line of troop, often accompanied by the senior British military officer, where he observes each
chief.
Well, yeah, the com.
Right, we can see the President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has just touched down at the place where we have the Guard of Honor, who is also accompanied by Prince Williams, and the wife, Chief Oluremi Tinubu, who also accompanied her husband, who is the President of Nigeria, First Lady of Nigeria. And this is quite a historic moment where the Guard of Honor will be inspected, which is the highest ceremonial gestures extended to the visiting head of state, which actually reflects the UK's formal recognition of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's office and Nigeria's status. And we know that Nigeria is one of the Commonwealth nations. And this is something that the entire world is actually, focused on right now.
Touch of gold, huh? White Camilla is being pinkish. Tinubu administration will maximize this movement. They will export, they will use them to be finished. This is the campaign. This is the campaign for 2027. the hard content.
Council carry!
What for this
All students carry! Start!
is it? I think Washington will be good. That's it. It's the grid. So it should be good. Medium team. Yeah. Yeah. Which national anthem is this? So, this. Rolls Royce.
Right, we can see the president of Nigeria,
Right, Tinubu,
President Bola Ahmed
yeah.
Tinubu,
Alright.
who has just touched down at the place where we have the guard of honor,
This is
who is
where
also
Ambassador-
accompanied by Prince Williams
Messenger will show
and the
up.
wife, Chief Oluremi Tinubu, who also accompanied her husband, who is the president of Nigeria, First Lady of Nigeria. And this is quite a historic moment where the guard of honor will be inspected, which is the highest ceremonial gestures extended to the visiting head of state, which actually reflects the UK's formal recognition of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's office and Nigeria's status. And we know that Nigeria is one of the Commonwealth nations. And this is something that the entire world is actually, focused on right now.
Show up with green and gold. Yes. Matching up with the Royals too. Okay.
Council carry! All students carry! Start!
You were there. No. Nails. Shit. Igwe. Abuja must be empty. When they touch down like this, I campaign.
Manager. Manager, oh, si Coco.
It's almost invisible. Hey, man.
You're watching live videos, live pictures, from the Windsor Castle, where the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his wife and other dignitaries from Nigeria have been welcomed to the United Kingdom on a state visit. And we can see that the parade, the program generally, has kick-started, where we had the Nigeria's new national anthem, which we reverted to. Nigeria, we hail thee. It's quite instructive, Olamide, that this anthem was actually written by Lillian John Williams, who was a British expatriate who was living in Nigeria when country achieved its independence in 1960. And we saw that that changed much later, where we were having this recitation of Arise, O Come Patriot, and then it was changed back by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Nigeria, we hail thee, and quite nostalgic for those who were alive at the time and who enjoyed singing that particular, reciting that particular national anthem. So it's so it's historical, it's significant that this is also now being recited right there in London, in the UK, where the president has been welcomed as the head of state or the Nigeria's president.
This is nostalgic, like you said, especially for those who were alive at that time. The Nigerian national anthem, Nigeria We Hail Thee, now readopted. We saw that President Tinubu was at the forefront of this, and the idea of bringing back that anthem was to bring back a sense of belonging, promoting national unity in the country, especially at this time. Absolutely. And now that we are seeing this being played once again as a sign of welcoming the president, as a ceremonial gesture, welcoming Nigeria for who we are among the League of Nations, it is quite significant, quite interesting. At its core, we understand that this visit is more about mutual interest, what both nations can now bring to each other. At that time, Nigeria was one of the countries that was colonized, but now we are coming to the United Kingdom, standing side by side with the leadership for what we can bring to the country in terms of economy, in terms of trade. And I understand that a lot of that will be brought to the table at this time. Well, live on your screen is still the welcoming of the president and also the first lady to the United Kingdom by the royal family. And that's the 21-gun salute from the St. John's Hall in the United Kingdom as a sign of welcoming our president. Right there we see King Charles III and also President Bola Tinubu in that carriage.
We can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inside a chariot, being escorted by the horses, for the Guard of Honor, to inspect the Guard of Honor, which is one of the high ceremonial gestures extended to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who in capacity as the president of Nigeria and that of recognition of Nigeria's status. We see that this is not just a pageantry. This moment signals mutual respect, diplomatic parity, and military tradition, as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu reviews troops representing, the host nation. And one thing is that for the United Kingdom under King Charles III, such ceremonies as these, reinforce the continuity of state protocol and heritage which we've been witnessing over time, blending centuries-old royal tradition with modern diplomacy. And one thing for us as Nigerians to note is that it's a visual reminder of Nigeria's global standing and strategic importance, especially within the Commonwealth and international partnerships. Beyond the optics, we set in the tone for the visit, the formal, respect, and state-driven before the real business of negotiation begins. And Olamide, negotiations like this, talking about what the kind of deals that will be signed by both parties, talking about Nigeria and the United Kingdom, which involves the remodeling of the Tinkan Island, Apapa port, where so much remodernization will be done, infrastructure, and alongside that, they'll also be looking at the strategic partnership on security, as Nigeria is bedeviled with insecurity here and there.
And since the beginning of this administration, we have seen an intentional, move to expanding beyond what is on ground in terms of infrastructure, trade. And what we see today is quite historic. We will see a high level of partnerships, investment, and it's also important to note that this would also send the right message to the global audience who is, watching how well the president is being acknowledged and welcome in the United Kingdom today. Now, this visit would now signal to investors that Nigeria is, a good place to do business. Ready. It's business ready. We are ready to receive investors. We are ready for what, they can give to us and what we can also, provide for them on both sides. President Tinubu has continually, communicated that, there is confidence in our agriculture, major sectors in the economy, policy-wise and all of that. We are ready. I think live on the screen, we still see the guard of honor. The welcoming is still going on for the president and also the first lady.
Well, this visit actually signals a reset and strengthening of Nigeria.
Congratulations.
Today on World Now, King Charles III, Queen Camilla welcomed President Bola Tinubu to the United Kingdom as both countries seek to strengthen ties in trade, aid and defense. This will be our focus in just a moment. Now let's tell you how far the relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom has evolved over the years. It also looks at how the historic visits will transition into economic gains for Nigeria.
The story of Nigeria and the United Kingdom did not end with independence in 1960. It has since evolved to strategic cooperation. After independence, Nigeria remained with the Commonwealth, maintaining deep institutional links with Britain. Today, the United Kingdom remains one of Nigeria's most important economic partners, with strong investment flows, security cooperation, and a vibrant Nigerian diaspora being the bridge between both nations. In 1965, 5 years after independence, Nigeria's first Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa made a historic visit to London. His mission was to define Nigeria's place in the post-colonial world. His visit focused on Commonwealth diplomacy, global positioning, and maintaining stability in a rapidly changing international order. Under military rule, General Ibrahim Babangida in 1989 visited the United Kingdom at a time of economic uncertainty. Nigeria was grappling with structural adjustment, debt pressures, and global financial scrutiny. His visit hinged on securing economic support and reinforcing ties with Western powers. It was a moment defined by necessity. Now, fast forward 37 years, a new chapter is unfolding before our eyes. On Tuesday, the 17th of March,
2023,
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu departed Abuja for the United Kingdom on on the invitation of King Charles III. This is no ordinary trip. It is Nigeria's first full state visit to the United Kingdom in nearly 4 decades, which signals renewed relevance on the global stage.
These reforms would make things much, much easier for the average Nigerian as the years and months go on. These reforms would open up investment. This is why Britain is interested in Nigeria. This is why a lot of countries want to wine and dine the Nigerian president. This is why we having more attention because our economy is more open, it's more liberal. It's been liberalized.
Hosted at Windsor Castle, President Tinubu's visit carries the highest diplomatic honor Britain can extend. But beyond ceremony lies strategy. During the visit, President Tinubu is expected to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, engage senior UK government officials, meet British business leaders and investors, as well as address the Nigerian diaspora in London. At the heart of the visit is a clear economic agenda. President Tinubu is seeking increased UK investment in energy, infrastructure and technology, stronger financial partnerships to stabilize Nigeria's reform-driven economy, expanded security cooperation in counterterrorism and intelligence, climate financing and clean energy collaboration, as well as improved migration frameworks for skilled Nigerians. This is beyond diplomacy for optics. It is a matter of survival and growth.
The honors given to Nigeria, the country, and every Nigeria should go inside and celebrate this visit that Nigeria can benefit from it.
It's our goal in the United Kingdom. We are welcoming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the United Kingdom. It's a great opportunity for us at this moment in time.
Several memorandums of understanding covering trade and investment expansion, security cooperation, climate and energy transition, technology and innovation partnerships are expected to be signed. These agreements will define the next decade of Nigeria-UK relations. Since Brexit, the United Kingdom has been searching for new economic partners. Nigeria, with its population, resources and market size, is central to that strategy.
I'm a fan for trips that have value-add characteristics. So one is that you are trying to restore the dignity and respect of a country that has lost a lot of its values over the years. Two is to say that we are connected to the rest of the world. We are not a Robinson Crusoe economy. Three is that we've seen a change in the composition of our GDP. We now have services growing faster than the rail sector, than petroleum sector. We are seeing that Nigeria is able to harness resources both for its African initiatives and also for its international initiatives. We have seen that Nigeria is not an appendage to a former master colony relationship. It is now independent and has come of age.
This visit to Britain is about access, and for Nigeria, it is about opportunity. President Bola Tinubu's state visit at this time is a test of how his administration can convert history into leverage and diplomacy into real economic transformation under his renewed hope agenda.
I will be speaking with immigration attorney Dayo Fadina and Victor Oai, global affairs analyst, to discuss the significance of this state visit to the United Kingdom. But first, let's speak to our correspondent who has been monitoring development and is live with the president in the United Kingdom. Femi, thank you for joining us at this time. Let's start with the significance of how the president was welcomed in the United Kingdom today. Femi, I'm hoping you can hear me. You have been monitoring development since the president arrived. Talk to us about how symbolic the welcoming was today.
Hi, Olamide. Well, beyond the optics, this is quite symbolic for not just Nigeria, including the United Kingdom, because this is further strengthening the ties that existed pre-independence between these two countries. They have maintained and sustained these ties over the years. But it's the first time in 37 years that the United Kingdom or the royal family will host a president from Nigeria. We saw the whole street of Windsor all came out. The whole residents were lined up waiting to see that spectacle, because it's indeed always a great show anytime there is a state visit hosted by the royal family here in the United Kingdom. So everyone came out. The Nigerian community were out on the street waving Nigerian flags, dressed in Nigerian attires, all showing support for their country and for the administration of President Bola Tinubu. We also saw residents of Windsor, we saw citizens of Britain, the United Kingdom, also on the street supporting their King Charles III and Queen Camilla, and also supporting the relationship that exists between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. We saw that march by the members of the Royal Armed Forces here in the United Kingdom in honor of President Bola Tinubu. He was received at Fairmont Hotel by the Prince and Princess of Wales and accompanied to Windsor, where he was given that royal welcome by King Charles and Queen Camilla, and then taken on that royal carriage round Windsor and then moved into Windsor Castle, where a lot of other meetings will be holding behind closed doors.
Quite a historic visit there in the United Kingdom. We're waiting out to see the conversations that will follow after the president was welcomed today. Femi, I'll put you on hold for a moment. Let's quickly speak to our guest, Dayo Fadino. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. This is the first Nigerian state visit to the United Kingdom in about 37 years. Beyond the symbolism, what real diplomatic value would you say this really holds for Nigeria today?
Oh, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your guests and your viewers. As far as I'm concerned, this particular visit is quite significant and quite important. This has not happened regarding a state visit of a Nigerian head of state. The last time it happened, I think, was about 38 years ago. So this is quite symbolic. It's quite historic. And we should also bear in mind that we've had a very, very strong, a cordial relationship with the UK over the years. We should also remember that the British actually colonized Nigeria. So hence we have a very, very strong tie concerning cultural ties, diplomatic ties, even in defense ties, and trade and investment ties. So this has been a very, very long, important relationship we've had with the UK for so many years. Now, the significance of this very particular visit should be taken on board very, very seriously, because we are aware of so many problems we still have in Nigeria concerning trade, concerning investments, concerning security, very, very serious security challenges. And I hope that this visit would actually address so many of these, problems that we are going through in Nigeria today. I also hope that when it comes to the standard of living of the majority of Nigerians, both in Nigeria and abroad, this visit would at least give us that advantage edge in terms of actually resolving so many of these problems.
Well, there are a lot of expectations as to this visit. But Femi, let's stay on the optics for a bit. How powerful would you say the image of a Nigerian president really engaging with the British monarch in today's global context would really mean? How symbolic is this?
Well, Olamide, the British monarchy is one of the most powerful monarchy in the world, and of course here in the United Kingdom, it's a monarch. Their system of government is run by the monarchy. They are the head of government here, and Nigeria is hoping to leverage on this, to also tap into the British economy, to get more investors from the United Kingdom to come into Nigeria. This will be the first major engagement between Nigeria and Britain since they pulled out of the EU. Britain is now trying to engage with the world as a single country, not as the European Union now. To strengthen the bilateral trade that exists between Nigeria and Britain, which for now is about $8 billion annually, and that's already increased by about 11% from 2024, till date. President Bola Tinubu is seeking to, expand that trade, and Nigeria is the UK's biggest, largest trade partner in Africa, and of course Nigeria is the biggest consumer market in Africa. Britain is also seeking to explore more opportunities in the Nigerian market, see how more openings can be made for goods from Nigeria now to be exported into the United Kingdom, and that will also be done by the collaboration between the two countries to improve Nigeria's port infrastructure. Already we hear that a memorandum of understanding will be signed during this trip of about 746 million euro to pounds, I beg your pardon, to help Nigeria build its quay walls that would enable the country's ports to take bigger vessels and improve efficiency around the port, and eventually or ultimately it would help increase trade in the country and in the West African region, and to stop Nigeria also from recording losses, trade losses of about 6 billion naira annually. A lot of these trade are diverted to neighboring West African countries. So Nigeria is taking that big step to cement its relationship with the United Kingdom and ensure that all of this translates into economic prosperity, not just for the present, but indeed for generations to come, and also help President Bola Tinubu shore up revenue, because he is seeking to grow the country's revenue and indeed the economy to a $1 trillion economy by 2030. So for the federal government of Nigeria, just seeing this as one of those major steps that must be taken if indeed Nigeria will, if indeed Nigeria's economy will get to that target President Bola Tinubu's administration has set for it. Olamide.
A correspondent in the United Kingdom, Femi Akonde, thank you for joining us at this time. We continue the conversation as I'm joined by Global Affairs Analyst Victor Ohai. Mr. Ohai, thank you for joining us at this time. Let's start with what you make of this visit by the President to the United Kingdom. How significant would you say this is at this time for the country? Mr. Ohai, maybe you can hear me. Talk to us about the significance of this visit from what you have seen today. Let's continue the conversation with Dayo Fadina. Thank you for staying with us at this time. Immigration is always a sensitive issue at this time. The Nigerian diaspora, especially for those who still seem divided on this, especially on the president's visit. Talk to us how much influence you think that diaspora sentiment can really have on the success of such high-level visits.
Yes, the immigration aspect of things as far as the UK is concerned, quite important. We should remember that as I hinted earlier, that we've had this very, very long history of a relationship with the UK. And in the process over the years, we've had so many Nigerians emigrating to the UK and settling in the UK. So we have a big, Nigerian presence and population in the UK. Well over about 2 million Nigerians living in the UK. So in that respect, I would want this very particular visit, if President Tinubu could at least make it very, very clear to the British government that the presence of Nigerians in the UK, particularly in most of their very big industries, the AI industries, the youngsters are actually performing wonders all over the country. The UK. Their presence in sports is also very, very significant. That means the children of immigrants who actually came to the UK so many years ago. So I would want him to at least make it very, very clear to the British establishment that the way so many immigrants are being treated in the UK is not very particularly a good thing. We contribute so significantly to so many industries in this country. The presence of Nigerians and so many other immigrants. For instance, the national health industry in the UK. So many Nigerians, so many immigrants present. The engineering sector, the high-tech sector, and for that reason, I would want to believe and plead with the president that if he could at least make it very, very clear to the British authorities to be a little bit softer on immigrants and the way they are treating immigrants these days. Right. It's not a very, very particular thing at all, pleasant thing at all for the authorities not to at least take on board the presence, the significance, and the value given by immigrants to the UK.
And from what you have, requested, how much strength would you say Nigeria is really bringing to the table? It's almost 4 decades after, about 37 years, where the last state visit happened. Nigeria coming back today to the United Kingdom in this kind of manner, how much strength would you say the country is really bringing to the table in terms of negotiations?
Well, unfortunately, over the last 37, 40 years, so many things have happened in Nigeria. We had a very brutal military regime for so many years. Then, I think about 26 years ago, we transitioned into becoming a civilian democratic country. But in that period of 26, 27 years, we still have a very, very difficult situation with our security. We have security challenges all over the country. The level of economic development in Nigeria, particularly to do with the majority of Nigerians, is not particularly a pleasant sight at all. That all these things happening in Nigeria, I think we do not particularly have a very powerful presence at this point in terms of negotiations. But I believe with a very, very coherent, straightforward, philosophically oriented president, he should be able to at least put forth the case of Nigeria and why we feel that being one of the major global powers in Africa and indeed the world, to do with our resources, to do with our population, and to do with what we can actually achieve as a country, I still believe President Tinubu should be able to make a very, very strong case on behalf of Nigeria and Nigerians, and what we could actually contribute to both the UK and what we could actually achieve generally in Nigeria, as a country.
Right. Quite a historic visit we saw, there with the president visiting the United Kingdom. We're waiting now to see what the outcome of this will be. We understand there will be high-level engagement, and not just with the president, but with other, members of his cabinet that, joined him for this visit. That's a fine place to leave it for now. Thank you for joining us at this time. Immigration Attorney Dayo Fadino, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But that's it. Onward now.
Thank you for joining us on World Now on TVC News. I am Abosede Adene Aderemi. Let's start off with that very matter, the US-Israel-Iran war. Let's tell you that Israel's defense minister says Iran's security chief Ali Larijani has been killed by his country's military in a strike. But Iran has not confirmed if the claim is true or false.
Landed up in Stansted yesterday, up in North London. That's fairly typical as well. That's typically where we see Donald Trump arrive in London when he does so as well. So that's a pretty standard arrival point for heads of state when they make these arrivals to the UK. You can just see Bola Tinubu there in the background speaking to Prince William, who only yesterday was on a tandem bicycle in support of a charity event. Today, greeting international leaders as part of the state visit. And this is a key moment for the two nations to forge cultural ties, to forge economic ties, and also to forge personal ties as well, because of course you are looking at the future King of England. So this is somebody who will be representing the UK ever more so on the world stage going forward. So this is a key moment for the two nations to do so. And it will bring together international partners as well. There is always typically business and trade announcements made as part of these visits. They, of course, have been pre-agreed. They don't just get signed, sealed and delivered on the day, but they get announced and ceremoniously signed, sealed and delivered on the day. And in a statement, the Nigerian government spokesperson said the visit was about turning historic relationships into modern economic partnerships, and building the economy and growing the economy has been a key focus for the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. And there we are seeing, leaving that room, is the President of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, and also the Prince and Princess of Wales. Outside those rooms in Windsor is the pomp and the pageantry. And you can just take a listen to some of the music being played. Of course, the challenge of a state visit at Windsor Castle is that the music gets drowned out by the flight path of Heathrow Airport. Many people wonder what was built first, Heathrow or Windsor Castle. Well, of course it was Windsor Castle, I say in jest, but that is the realities of modern-day state visits. They bring together the history, they bring together the ceremony, they bring together all that has gone before with then modern politics, modern geopolitics, and modern economics too. It will be a key area of focus. Africa's largest consumer market is Nigeria, and this will be a key area of focus for the two nations in building partnerships that allow the UK and Nigeria to build on, firstly, the economy of one of the largest in the world, the United Kingdom, and the economy of one of the fastest growing in the world and most consuming in the world, Nigeria. So not only is it all about economics and business, it's also about some of the niceties as well. And we're expecting, as ever with these state visits, to see an exchange of gifts between the two nations. They generally have a degree of symbolism or a degree of uniqueness to those who are visiting. And typically with these kind of state visits, the United Kingdom presents items in its ownership, in its care, that are linked to the nation who is making that state visit. So in this case, of course, Nigeria. So items from the royal collection, which is so vast and so historic, will be presented to Bola Tinubu and his wife. There will also be, notably, two instances in faith. Firstly, the President and his wife laying flowers at the tomb of the late Queen Elizabeth in St. George's Chapel, and also attending an interfaith event. Notable, of course, because the King, the head of the Church of England, Bola Tinubu, a practicing Muslim, and his wife, a Christian and ordained pastor. So lots being brought together in the state visit. Someone that knows more about this than anybody else is, of course, Alistair Bruce, who is joining us now. And Alistair, what are the key points to look out for in events such as this?
Well, first of all, on a beautiful day at Windsor, it will look magnificent as the King receives the President of Nigeria, and it is a chance for the diplomacy that will take place between His Majesty's government and the government of Nigeria to take place in the background. But as you were saying, right from the beginning, when the King has formally received and welcomed the President to the United Kingdom, there will be a lunch. But the President, of course, will be observing his Ramadan fast. But his wife will be. As a practicing Christian, she will join the King and Queen for luncheon. And as you're saying, today, mostly events at Windsor, an exchange of gifts, the state banquet tonight, and then some religious events during the day, recognising the work done at interfaith work throughout the United Kingdom, and particularly with such a large part of the population linked very closely to Nigeria.
And Alistair, talk to us about how important the personal touch is at an event such as this, because, the royal family are very adept at these. They work on behalf of the United Kingdom and building relationships. How important is it to spend time in the presence of them?
Well, this is the 16th president of Nigeria, and of course, previous to the first president in the 1960s, the King's mother, Elizabeth II, was Queen of Nigeria. And so those links are very, very close. The King, in his own time, has spent many occasions visiting Nigeria and getting to know it. And the links through the High Commissions of Nigeria and the United Kingdom are very, very strong. And as I say, with those traditional links, there are tremendous family connections all across the United Kingdom with people in Nigeria. And the desire for that closeness, in order to be able to advantage all the possible trade links and other cultural links, are immense. And for the King, he's just well across this. And you'll see later on today, the King will be showing items from the royal collection that go right back into Nigeria and Britain's links. And that will be just but an expression of his interest in and the nation's closeness to Nigeria.
Nigeria, of course, one of the 56 members of the Commonwealth nations, an independent nation now, but you alluded, of course, to that history that preceded where we find ourselves in 2026. And I wonder what that modern relationship looks like now, because, of course, there have been questions in some previous years about the role of the Commonwealth, but they seem to maybe have ebbed away in more recent years. In fact, we've seen nations looking to join, and not necessarily nations that have historic links to Britain. Talk to me about where the modern relationships go and how the history builds into that.
Well, the old British Empire came to an end and the British Commonwealth of Nations began, and that has become the Commonwealth. And I think the nations that are a part of it are doing so because they see that there is an advantage to having this loose and yet warm link between a number of countries across the world who have mutual interests in trying to pursue democracy, fairness, and those other tolerances that have sprung from the ethos of the Commonwealth. And both Elizabeth II and before her George VI set the foundation stones on which that could grow, and the King was invited to become head of the Commonwealth after he became sovereign and inherited. So, we see here a traditional welcome for a head of state, but there is an added relationship because, of course, as head of the Commonwealth, the King is welcoming the President of Nigeria, a very important part of that Commonwealth of Nations.
And talk to us about where politics fits into this, because this is a state visit. To what degree does the royal household, the royal family, Buckingham Palace interact, plan and agree with Downing Street and Number 10?
Well, of course, the King is not involved in any of the political elements of it, although he will make a speech at the state banquet tonight, which will have been cleared by Number 10 Downing Street and by the Foreign Secretary. But, in the background, particularly tomorrow when the President will spend time with the Prime Minister at Number 10 Downing Street, there will be a chance for all of that to be going on in the background. The role of the King as head of state is to convene. And you only have to look at the suite coming with the President today to see what that convening is enabling. Amongst those coming with the President are the Ministers for Finance Coordination, for the Economy, for Defence, for Trade and Investment, and for Tourism. And you can see that behind that there'll be a whole agenda of different things to be covered. We're seeing the Lord Lieutenant of Berkshire just coming forward to the steps because any minute now the King will arrive in order to be in position for when the President and his wife are brought to this state reception by the Prince and Princess of Wales.
I'm interested, Alistair. We often do the introductions to events such as this saying it's the first visit in X, and this is the first visit in 37 years. Why does sometimes so much time pass until the invitation is handed out to have that state visit? Because if alliances, if relationships, if strategic interactions are so important, why do we let so much time slip between these moments?
It's very much a choice for the Foreign Office in the United Kingdom and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and to consider who should be the next person accorded this particular honour. And for them, there are a myriad things taking part in their decision making. It is a long time since Elizabeth II received the then president. The salute is now being given. Presumably, I imagine we'll see in a moment, the King and Queen will arrive at that pavilion outside Windsor and Eton Riverside Station, and that's where it will begin as the King arrives.
We're just hearing the strains of the music being played. Over the next couple of days, there will also be the announcements of partnerships. The United Kingdom has already put out a press release a day ago touting hundreds of new jobs as Nigerian companies confirm what the UK government says is millions in investment. Talk to us about the people that get invited on kind of the periphery, on the outskirts of the state visits. Who else could we see joining alongside these moments?
Well, as the King comes to a halt, having come through the town gate onto Datchet Road, he will be received by the Lord Lieutenant of Berkshire, and he will then take a position and wait for a short time. But as you were saying, there is much to take place in the background, and for the Queen and for the King, the chance, as I say, to convene and to enable all those different discussions. The enormous population of Nigeria, its trade links with the United Kingdom and its cultural links, and also the elements of religion and faith, which are very important to the King, and are reflected in the fact that the President visiting is an avowed Muslim and his wife is an avowed Christian. And so in their own way, reflecting the breadth of different faiths. So the King and Queen are meeting the reception committee there at the pavilion, and once they have done that, it's a chance for the King just to eye the people who he will shortly be introducing to the President, and the Queen will be presenting to the President's wife. So it is, as you can see, perfectly framed by that pavilion with the United Kingdom flag and that of Nigeria, as this two-day state visit is about to get going.
Voice there of Alistair Bruce, our events commentator, as we watch these images live in Windsor, and we'll shortly be leaving Windsor to take you to Westminster, where whilst the state visit takes place, Prime Minister's questions will begin shortly in central London. It is midday. You're watching Sky News. Gareth Barlow with you for the moment, but shortly we'll take you to Westminster and the House of Commons for Prime Minister's questions, and with all the answers and all of the insight will be Jane Secker and Sam Coates for Sky News. But for the moment, here's the Prime Minister. Sir Keir Starmer.
I follow. Oh, yeah, you're using it, boss.
Those of you who are joining me are watching the preparations for the arrival of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Mrs. Tinubu, who are the guests of the King and Queen. The King and Queen is now waiting in this glorious sunshine, and the blossom in the background just at the edge of the castle. They came from the town gate a few moments ago in the State Bentley, and they will be waiting because at the same time as we are watching this event, the Prince and Princess of Wales have collected the President and his wife and are bringing them here along Edward VII Road from where their hotel is, or was, last night at Bishopsgate, just outside the Great Park. And we're seeing the outriders, so I shouldn't think it'll be long now before the moment arrives and the President is presented to the King and Queen by the Prince and Princess of Wales. It's a tradition that goes back to the earliest times, and it is a way of giving the highest honours of the country. We'll just watch now as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Mrs. Tinubu are welcomed to the United Kingdom formally at the start of this state visit by the King and Queen.
Guard of honor! Order! On! Guard of honor will form to rank. Form to rank! Guard of honor in open order. Inward! Guard!
The lifeguards there. The official comes out of the salute and they prepare the royal procession to take the King and the President in the first carriage and his wife and the Queen in the second, with the Prince and Princess of Wales in the third, and the suite who are travelling with the President in the other carriages. This will take a little bit of time to organise, as the household cavalry, who will be forming divisions of the Sovereign's escort to take the royal guests up to Windsor Castle, which literally is in their view now as they look across the troops who have saluted. And coming first, we will see the first two divisions take their place, ready for that journey up the hill. It'll take a little bit of time. The carriages taking part today will be principally the Australian state coach, which will take the King and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Quite modern, actually. It was made in 1986, finished in 1988 by the great Australian carriage builder, William Frecklington. It's covered in symbols of Australia, the wattle as the badge of the crown in Australia, and Australia being one of the great Commonwealth members, and of course Nigeria, another. The footman and blockman will bring the carriage to a halt, And when the carriages are all in position, the master of the horse will lead the King and the President to the carriage. That's Lord Ashton of Hyde. It's quite difficult getting into carriages if not used to it, because they do tend to lean right over on their straps to take each individual passenger as they get in. It's a different form of suspension from vehicles and takes some getting used to. Stowing the steps, and the carriage door will close. And meanwhile, Her Majesty the Queen and Mrs. Tinubu are being helped into the Scottish state coach, and the Prince and Princess of Wales into the 1851 Irish state coach made in Dublin. They're travelling with the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, the Honourable Lateef Fagbemi, and the Honourable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu. And they'll wait until the Crown Equerry gives the signal for the procession to start, and as the King leads off with the President, the national anthems of both the United Kingdom and of Nigeria will be played. Meanwhile, you can hear in the background the gun salute firing in the home park of Windsor Castle. The traditional honour that began at sea when ships passed to prove that their guns were empty and they could pass safely having discharged their guns, and everybody knew there was no time to recharge them before the ships passed. It was just a matter of courtesy and safety. It's not far from here up to the castle, where a parade is waiting in the quadrangle. Glorious sunshine is bathing it at the moment as the procession moves off. And the British national anthem. And in the following two Ascot Landors, other members of the suite who have come with the President for this state visit to the United Kingdom. The President of the Senate, for instance, who leads the House like the Speaker in the House of Lords here in Nigeria. The Honourable Minister for Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy. The Honourable Minister of Defence, Honourable Minister for Trade and Investment. And in the last carriage is the Minister for Tourism and the National Security Advisor, and then followed up by divisions of the Sovereign's escort provided there by the lifeguards. And they will disappear from Datchet Road up Thames Street and round the side of the castle until we see them again as they come up the long walk through Cambridge Gate and into the quadrangle of Windsor Castle. We look forward to you joining us for that state arrival at Windsor Castle shortly. Welcome to Windsor Castle and the glorious setting of the quadrangle as we look towards the dais where the King and Queen will host the President of Nigeria and his wife, and also to the place where the Prince and Princess of Wales will stand just outside the dais, as is traditional, along with senior members of the armed forces represented here today. The Silver Stick and Silver Stick Adjutant there from the Household Cavalry, and they have in fact come at great speed on a slightly quicker route from where we saw the King and Queen welcome the President and his wife down beside the railway station at Windsor and Eton Waterside. Interestingly, when that railway line was put in, it faced huge resistance from Queen Victoria and from those in the royal household here at the castle, and also from Eton College, the old school that was very close by. But finally, the Great Western Railway had their way, and today it formed the backdrop for this royal welcome. But the quadrangle is the upper ward of Windsor Castle, and to the right of our picture, just down on the ground there, you can see the arch through which it's George IV's gateway, through which the King and the President will come, and they will come towards us underneath where the camera is placed. We'll come round to the left of our picture, go underneath the state entrance past the Aquarius door, and come to a halt in front of the Guard of Honour formed today by the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, who have their royal standard of the regiment on parade, and they have to support them the Corps of Drums of the battalion and the Band of the Grenadier Guards under the command overall of Major Benedict Tracy. They are awaiting now their sovereign and the nation's principal guest, the President of Nigeria. You can tell the Grenadiers, they have white plumes in the left-hand side of their bearskin caps as the King and the President come with 6 Windsor Greys into the quadrangle. The daffodils are fantastic on the mound, a mound that was built really back at the time of William the Conqueror, when the round tower above, or at least what was there before it, was the principal part of one of the circles around London to protect it. And the presenting of arms by the Guard of Honour is the salute, with the national anthems to be played as the King and the President come round to a position of halt. And as you know, in the second carriage comes the Queen and the President's wife, Mrs. Oloremi Tinubu. She is an ordained pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and she will be performing a service tomorrow at Lambeth Palace. And now the British national anthem. always designed so that the music concludes exactly as the carriage comes to a halt. And the blockmen are in position, and the steps out for the King to escort the President of Nigeria to the dais, as the Queen also will bring his wife over to take this first great salute as a welcome to the United Kingdom. And the Prince and Princess of Wales, who have come in the Irish state coach, will take their positions just beyond us from here, the other side of the dais. Once the carriages have been reorganised, the steps replaced and the doors closed, the carriages will leave the parade ground, and once they're out of the way again, the commander of the Guard of Honour will give the word of command for the salute to the President of Nigeria. When the royal salute is done, the King will invite the President to inspect the Guard of Honour. I think he may do the front rank and then return to the dais. But you can see there, held by the ensign between the body of the Guard of Honour, the royal standard of the regiment that was given to the Grenadier Guards by the King in the very first weeks of his reign, underscoring the very close relationship between the 1st Regiment of Foot Guards, the Grenadiers, and the Sovereign. The Sovereign is the company commander of King's Company, the 1st Battalion, the Grenadier Guards. With the carriages leaving, the royal salute. Major Benedict Tracy will come out of the salute, and then he will march forward and ask the President to inspect the Guard of Honour. It's part of the sign of the respect being given to this principal guest of the United Kingdom. Let's listen to Major Benedict Tracy. He basically said that the Guard of Honour of the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards is formed up and ready for his inspection. The equerries come forward and the President will be invited to inspect the front rank. The King keeping company as escort. Quite a relief for Major Tracy, because sometimes when the heads of state have a different language from this nation, he has to learn to invite the President or Sovereign who's visiting in the language of their nation. So President Bola Tinubu is 73, but his 74th birthday is coming up later this month on the 29th, and he is the 16th President of Nigeria. The close ties between the United Kingdom and Nigeria that go back to the colonial period, with all the controversy that may be associated with that, long put to one side in the business of interstate relationships that take place today. And as the 16th president of the Fourth Republic was begun in 1999, and it had a tough journey as a nation getting there. There were 2 military interventions in the slow process of the establishment of independent republic democracy in Nigeria. And of course, with a political head of state, there are always controversial views on one side and the other of the political argument in Nigeria. As the president now is given the chance to head back to the saluting base, and when he returns to the saluting base with the king, there will be another salute before there is a rank passed by the household cavalry. Those are the divisions of the sovereign's escort who escorted the president up to the castle, and they will rank past as a way of saying their salute, and for him, as it were, to say thank you. And then also the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards will march past and give their final eyes left in salute to the president. What a day to arrive in the United Kingdom. And first of all, the guns of the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery, who fired the gun salute we heard earlier on at the first footstep of President Tinubu as he stepped from the car the Prince of Wales brought him in. And the march past of the King's Troop, who with their guns take precedence over all other regiments and corps of the British Army. And we can hear the individual words of command as each of the guns and limbers come past. The 13-pounders that have fired that gun salute that would have played their part in the First World War. And the dust thrown up, almost making it impossible to see the Prince and Princess of Wales there, who've completed their task of collecting the President and bringing him to the King and Queen earlier on. So the subsections going past one after the other, A to F subsections with their individual guns. And then coming forward under the command of the field officer and brigade waiting, the Sovereign's escort, the 4 divisions thereof from the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals, and they will lower their royal standards to the President and the King. The Life Guards wear red tunics and have white plumes from their helmets designed by Prince Albert, the Prince Consort, who was the husband of Queen Victoria. And the glistening coats of those fine mounts as they turn the corner and head now away after concluding their task today. And the Blues and Royals, identified by their blue tunics and their red plumes from the helmets they carry. And for those young men and women who join the household cavalry, learning to ride, holding a sword, wearing effectively body armour of the is its own challenge. And now Major Benedict Tracy will bring the Guard of Honour out of the present and prepare them too to march past the President. They'll turn to the left. And he will now take his position as the Royal Standard of the Regiment in the middle, given the protection of all the troops either side. And when Major Tracy is ready and he knows that his other officers are in place, he'll get a signal and he'll give this body of the Guard of Honour the instruction, by the right, quick march. And they'll wheel round just in front of the Aquarius door, just underneath St George's Hall, those great windows behind where tonight the state banquet for the President of Nigeria and his wife will take place, where the President will give his keynote speech and the King will also welcome him just before that with a message from the United Kingdom welcoming him and his wife and underscoring the close links through history. And if tradition goes, it will also include quite a lot of the King's humour. He always manages to bring that in. It's a sign of his warm affection to this nation of the Commonwealth. Those eyes firmly across to the left and looking at the President, the King, the Queen, and also Mrs. Tinubu, as the British Grenadiers play. And they'll wheel right again and head towards the George IV Gateway and out onto the Long Walk. Meanwhile, the band of the regiment, the Grenadier Guards, and their corps of drums will march forward, and they too will give their salute and march away from this parade ground, led by their drum major wearing gold coat as a respect to His Majesty the King. And you can see the corps of drums behind the band. And it's in those rooms above the dais, above the white tent of the dais, the great corridor where shortly the King will take his guests and they will be shown to their rooms where they'll be staying tonight, and tomorrow morning they'll take leave of the King and Queen, and the President and his wife will go in two different directions. The President for a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and other political representatives, as is the tradition, but his wife will go to Lambeth Palace, where she will give her sermon at a service in the chapel there, the home of the Archbishop of Canterbury. And into the shadow of today go the musicians who have lifted the parade of this welcome. And there's always an interesting echo when the music goes through that arch. And as soon as they go, the King will lead his principal guests, as I say, for the President of Nigeria, being guided by the King to help him. The gravel's not easy to walk across there, but it is now time for the King to take the President indoors, hand in hand, and to their rooms. And then the President will observe the fasting of Ramadan until the iftar this evening. And his wife will join the King and Queen and those other members of the Nigerian suite who are not observing Ramadan today. Of course, Eid is imminent, but today still Ramadan continues. Into the Sovereign's entrance, and there is a lift there which will take the King and the President to the grand corridor on the first floor. And so from Windsor, at the start of this state visit to the United Kingdom, His Majesty the King and the Queen have welcomed the President of Nigeria and his wife for a state visit, the greatest sign of respect that the United Kingdom can give to the nation and people of Nigeria.
Live videos, live pictures from the Windsor Castle, where the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his wife and other dignitaries from Nigeria have been welcomed to the United Kingdom on a state visit. And we can see that the parade, the program generally has kick-started, where we had the Nigeria's new national anthem, which we reverted to, Nigeria We Hail Thee. It's quite instructive, Olamide, that this anthem was actually written by Lillian John Williams, who was a British expatriate who was living in Nigeria when country achieved its independence in 1960. And we saw that that changed much later, where we were having this recitation of Arise, O Come Patriot, and then it was changed back by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Nigeria We Hail Thee, and quite nostalgic for those who were alive at the time and who enjoyed singing that particular, reciting that particular national anthem. So it's so it's historical, it's significant that this is also now being recited right there in London, in the UK, where the President has been welcomed as the head of state or the Nigeria's president.
This is nostalgic, like you said, especially for those who were alive at that time. The Nigerian national anthem, Nigeria We Hail Thee, now readopted. We saw that President Tinubu was at the forefront of this, and the idea of bringing back that anthem was to bring back a sense of belonging, promoting national unity in the country, especially at this time. Absolutely. And now that we are seeing this being played once again as a sign of welcoming the President, as a ceremonial gesture, welcoming Nigeria for who we are among the League of Nations, it is quite significant, quite interesting. At its core, we understand that this visit is more about mutual interest, what both nations can now bring to each other. At that time, Nigeria was one of the countries that was colonized, but now we are coming to the United Kingdom, standing side by side with the leadership for what we can bring to the country in terms of economy, in terms of trade. And I understand that a lot of that will be brought to the table at this time. Well, live on your screen is still the welcoming of the President and also the First Lady to the United Kingdom by the royal family. And that's the 21-gun salute from the St. John's Hall in